And our very first guest on this show, which I'm going to try and make a regular thing, even though it's really hard to get a hold of some people. But I don't know. Tim might have some pointers for me. But today's guest is Mr. Tim Andrews, host of Radio Labyrinth podcast. We're going to get into that here in a second. And also a on-air personality for the Haessler Doctrine on the mighty WSB radio here in the Atlanta listening area. Former regular guys, on-air personality as well. And so welcome to the show, Tim. How you doing, bud?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just get right into your channel. Your channel on YouTube is Radio Labyrinth.
That's right. Radio Labyrinth podcast on YouTube, or just Radio Labyrinth if you're looking for the audio portion of it on any podcatcher.
Right. So pretty much spread out around the audioverse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so it's kind of a gold mine of, I don't know, like everything entertainment based, pop culture, maybe some sports every now and then. But it's very entertainment focused. And what I love about this show is your guests, especially when you get your guests, it's like they're people that like other people, your viewers might have known or heard a thousand times and never even knew who these people were, such as like voiceover actors like Billy West and things like that. So it's really a gold mine of integral people in the entertainment world.
Yeah, we've had a lot of different guests. I think Billy West was the pinnacle for me because he's certainly one of my heroes, and he's one of my co-host Jeff's heroes from back in Ren and Stimpy days, and of course from the Howard Stern show. That's where I first heard him doing all those classic characters and impressions and stuff. But yeah, we try to keep it people that Gen X would know, and we've run the gamut. I mean, we had Max Gale from Barney Miller on, and we spoke to him so long we had to do 2 episodes. This was before we were on YouTube, but once we were doing the Zoom thing, and people were amenable to it, we started having people on. We've had Joel Murray, Bill Murray's brother, and we've had all sorts, Joe Pera on a couple of times, bunch of times actually. So it's fun to get them and to talk to them. Billy West, though, was great because there was no time limit really with him. And he did all of his, great characters and stories. Not all of them, but quite a few of them.
Yeah, I could tell. And so just so everybody knows, that's a recent, a very recent episode on the Radio Labyrinth podcast channel. And I could tell, Tim, like I could see the giddiness in your face. I just could,
Yeah, I was excited, and the weird thing about it, I mean, not weird, but we interviewed him on a Tuesday, and we asked him about Futurama. Is Futurama ever going to come back? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't know, and I mean, he was non-committal. And the very next day, the news broke that Futurama's coming back with like 20 new episodes on Hulu.
Is that exclusive to Hulu then, I guess? With new
yeah, it'll be exclusive to Hulu. And, there was a big uproar. I mean, it was kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the word is, a big coincidence, I guess. So if people are searching for Billy West and stuff like that, we're going to pop up in that search because it was so recent. And, there's the controversy about John DiMaggio, who voices Bender. He's not a part of the show yet. I hope they reach a contract with him, though, because that's such a fun show. And to have Bender voiced by somebody else would be weird. I know that Billy said he wouldn't do it. So.
Oh, really? He did say that?
Yeah, he would. I don't think he would do it. I think that they'd have to hire someone else.
But I mean, Billy's got what, 3 or 4 major voices on the show already? Or
Zoidberg, Fry, and Zap Brannigan.
Okay.
Oh, and also the professor.
The professor, yeah.
Good news, everybody.
Yeah, so he's got like basically 2 main characters there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I encourage everybody to check out that show with Billy West, man. That was a good one for me too, man. So what else? I mean, tell me more about Radio Labyrinth. And I mean, God, dude, it seems like you've been doing that for a very long time. Like even before you landed your extension of it on YouTube.
Yeah, when I was let go from Rock 100.5, which was excuse me, which was the fall of 2015, I got together with a guy named Ira Malkin who had reached out to me. He had been involved in radio, but he's also a guy that's he does a lot of audio work, and he's in a band and he's a performer. And he said, "Hey, why don't we talk about doing a podcast?" And my buddy Jeff, who I've known for a very long time, we've known each other since I don't know the late '70s. We went to the same school and we've been friends for decades.
Right.
He wanted to do it too. And we said, well, let's do a pop culture podcast. Let's talk about things that our generation really cares about. And so we just got together and hashed it out. And I think our first episode was in December of 2015. So with very few exceptions, we've been on every single week since then. I took a little time off early last year when our son was born. I think I took a month off from the podcast. But other than that, it's just been consistent for about 6-7 years.
And congratulations, by the way. I was going to tag the end of my intro with "and new dad."
Thank you.
So congratulations, man.
Yeah, my weekends are my wife works on the weekends, early in the morning, so I get to spend every Saturday and Sunday morning with our son, and that's a lot of fun watching him become a little person. At first he was just a baby that cried, and he's still a baby, but now he gets up and he laughs and he can do things on his own a little bit, and we just spend a couple hours, dad and son. It's fun.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. That's good stuff.
Probably a little more challenging than it would have been 20 years ago, but it's still a lot of fun and worth it.
So when you did start radio, what year? I'm sorry, I forgot. What year did you start it?
December of 2015, we did our first episode.
Right, and so the technology for the internet, believe it or not, kids, was way different back then. Like this didn't exist.
No, none of this
I'm on right now didn't exist.
No,
so where did you start landing it? Like on Blog Talk and places like that, or?
No, we went straight to. I think we were on Podbean at first. We went into a studio and recorded it, and then I edited it, and then we put it out. And I would do all these elaborate intros with clips from TV shows, movies, and music, and tried to make that the hook to get you in to listen to the show. And I did that for about a year, maybe 2 years, and then abandoned it. It wasn't until early 2020 when we weren't allowed to be in a studio anywhere together. We started it out at a studio over on the west side that was primarily a video editing and audio editing studio, and then I moved it to the WSB studios. And then, of course, the pandemic shut everything down, so we had to adopt Zoom. And at first, I didn't want to do it because I didn't like the sound. I was, angry that I couldn't have the good audio that I liked. But eventually, we figured it out, and I got set up at home, and everybody got set up at home, and that just made the YouTube channel make more sense. And we had Dustin Lawler come in. He produces the YouTube channel and does all the really cool graphics and editing, and he'll drop clips in. And it's a little bit different from just listening to it. And Dustin's become, a valuable part of the show. And
Interesting.
And he's brought us some guests. His brother is the lead guitarist for St. Paul and the Broken Bones, who we had on. His name's Browen Lawler. We had him on a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, I loved. Just to make it short, I guess, is that the technology for Zoom at first wasn't really my cup of tea, but now I really enjoy it because it makes the show. I can do it at home. I don't have to leave, and the audio sounds okay. So it's not as rich as being in a studio with a microphone like this, but it's as good as it's going to be.
Sure. And that's interesting to me because so I didn't realize that. I'll be honest with you, Tim. I just assumed that you did post. You did all the posts on Radio Labyrinth.
I did until Zoom.
Until relatively recently.
Yeah. I did everything. Would clip it all together, and really now it's seamless for me. I mean, I just he sends me the audio file after he's done with all the editing, and I upload it to the company we use is called Audio Boom, and they have a network and a lot of different people. And even that's changed. When it started out, Audio Boom was a small independent company, but that got bought by some conglomerate out of the UK. So, that's where we are. I've been wanting to move to a different platform, but just waiting for the right one to come along. And we don't command enough listeners to be on one of the bigger ones, but I guess if we paid for it, we could be on, like Podbean or one of those.
Oh yeah. Now you're getting into the business side of things. Um, yeah, I've always like I've appreciated, especially like recently, like so a good chunk of the top of your channel, the post production's awesome. That's one thing that I've appreciated about it because like that's not how I roll. You
Mhm.
know, I prefer the live shows. And I do have a little bit of production I could do live while I'm on air. But uh I love the posts that you do. And of course, I mean you get to be on you're live on air 5 days a week. So you get that out of your system. Like
Mhm.
for me, it's just my preference. I love to do shows live and raw and just roll with it.
I've thought about doing it, but I don't know about doing it on YouTube and stuff. We've toyed with the idea of occasionally doing it live, but then if I do it live, I want to bring people in. I don't know. It's just I like having that production done so it has a semblance of a show, because there's so many of us talking. If you're doing a one-on-one interview format,
Yeah.
or if it's just one person doing the talking, doing it live and interacting with the audience would be cool. If I have to, and that's, I mean, just to bring it back to the radio show, the Von Haessler Doctrine, we stream that show live on multiple platforms. If I'm looking at the chat and interacting with the people who are watching, then I'm not paying attention. And our show, in order for me to do what I do, I have to pay attention to pretty much everything Eric says, so I can, know when to jump in. There's so many voices other than his.
It, exactly. And that's an interesting point you just brought up because Tim, you've been in radio for so long. Just throw me out the year of your first year dealing with radio, live radio.
First live radio show that I ever did was in 1990 or 1991. Actually, it was the summer of 91, and I was a disc jockey in a disc jockey on an adult contemporary AM station in upstate New York, Elmira, New York. And then at night, because I was working at this station all week, I Monday through Friday. Actually, I worked 7 days a week. I would go in at night and do the FM, which was a country station. So 91, it was Garth Brooks and that whole
Of
group of
course.
people that
Yeah.
bursted out, because I would get in trouble if I'd play Johnny Cash or anything classic like that. But
Uh,
that was the first place I ever did live radio. And then after that, I did it sparingly at a couple different stations, and then pretty much gave up on it. Moved to Atlanta and got a job doing promotions part time just to stay in the solar system of radio, and eventually got a job doing. I was as the promotions director in 96 Rock, and I could do voices, and I kind of just got picked up by Larry and Eric from the regular guys asking me to do characters, and that's sort of what I did. It was pre-social media, so it was hard to prove that it was a fake character that was, making all these outrageous claims. And basically it was
uh,
to piss off the audience and get them to call in and keep them listening.
right.
But
And
about
draw out the conspiracy theorists too, right?
right.
Yeah.
And about it was 2005 was when I was actually brought into the regular guy show just to do voices and stuff like that. And then that role grew throughout it was the second firing, and then Rock 100.5. So really consistently 2009 on is when I've been, no promotions, none of that stuff, just straight on air. And I did produce the show for most of the regular guys run at Rock 100.5.
Okay, so you were the producer of that show for the meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah, until
Yeah.
2014, yes.
But you also did on air personality, so you played that dual role, right?
Right. During the show, I didn't really do much producing. Well, I would handle guests and run in and out of the studio, but most of the time,
Right.
especially during News Jog, which Eric did, I had to sit there and be ready to, throw out a joke or do a voice or something like that.
Well, cool. Let's pause right there, and then
Sure.
we'll pick up since the funky bunch has come up now. I'll
Mhm.
just call it.
Okay.
Um, so here's what I wanted to tie that into though is that so your whole career, man, you're used to that uber professional live on air. I mean that it's 9:04. The intro comes like all that professionalism.
Right.
What's fun to do on YouTube sometimes, man, is just hit that go live button and see what happens.
Right.
So if you ever wanted to do something fun and different with Radio Labyrinth, I'd say that's probably something that in a weird, ironic way, you're not used to. Because you're used to all that like, bump hard, 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 right? Like everything's hard breaks and things like that, right?
Well, especially at a station like WSB where the clock is so much tighter than it was at Rock 100.5.
I'm
We're an
sure.
FM,
Yeah.
rock station. Now our clock got tighter there. Now, if people don't know, your clock is you have a certain amount of time to talk before you have to go into a hard break and play commercials. Now, that's all we had at Rock 100.5. But if you at WSB, you have news and traffic and weather and the ads. So,
Yep.
you have that very tight clock. And this ship at WSB is run by very competent people who know how to get us in and out of the break. But you always have to be paying attention. How much time do I have? When are we going to break? And you got to look at Eric, who's the host, to get us in and out of that stuff. And then, in between those breaks, have to be able to play with what we have. And I think that it was different for us to learn how to do something like that. And it's been, God, I think it's been since 2000 or since 2016, we've been full time, and every year the show got longer until, it is where it is today. So hopefully that answered your question. But it is.
No,
But on
but
YouTube, you have all that. You don't have to break. You can just do whatever you
right.
want. And people understand that you go, oh, okay, I'm going to take 2 seconds to go get a drink of water. And I'm going to leave the mic on and the camera on and
Oh, I
other
do it
people are
all the
going to talk.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've done, I've done this and left people hanging. Well, I usually, if I have a panel, I'm like, I gotta go pee. So I've got maybe 4 people on. I just do this, and
Yeah.
like I don't come back for 5 minutes sometimes. um, or my internet crashes, Tim, and somebody else kind of has to realize that that's what's going on because I'm like this on air, like I'm frozen up, like that happens. And yeah, and they'll just they'll just kind of take over the show. To be
Right.
honest with you, until I can reboot my computer or reboot the internet. But yeah, like as you and I have been talking, I've actually paid very little attention to chat. So I guess what I'm trying to convey to you is that like there's a like with platforms like this on the internet that let's just say anybody could do, right? There's a new art form to it. And the beauty it is nobody's here telling you like how to do it. Like you
No.
just do it the way you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have a program director or a consultant telling you how to do it. There are consultants for podcasts and live
Yeah.
streams and stuff, but
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't I would never pay anybody to do that for me.
No, I hear you. I hear you. It's a different world, but so I mean, like obviously, I've got a lot of experience in the entertainment industry because I was in it on the music side for 20 years. But like in the radio business, I'm still learning stuff about the radio business. I'm like, oh, really?
Well, you were
Damn,
you were
like
one of the first guests that we had on the regular guys when they returned to the radio on Rock 100.5.
yeah, and that blows my mind that you remember that. Like I wasn't expecting that. I mean, as all the people that have shuffled through, that very popular show, um, I'm surprised you remembered me and us.
Well, when you brought it up that you were in the band, I knew exactly when it was because we had just come back on air, and a couple of our first guests I remember very well. Our first comedian was Jimmy Walker, who
Uh-huh.
was in town performing at the Funny Farm, which is no longer around, and you guys
Was
came in and you performed,
yeah.
and
I
yeah,
remember Jimmy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and Then we of course had to have the porn stars on, and we had all that on. That just
TNA.
yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's probably the end of that because I don't know that they do that anymore. They don't tour like that anymore, and I wouldn't know what radio show would put them on the air now. But
right.
we were the last show I think that did that.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, oh God, there's so much to dive into with that. That's just interesting. You remember that, and that was fun. So, like, the thing I want to say about that like stuck with me, and then I'll kind of transition from there.
Sure.
Was that we showed up that first time to play. We were going to play live as a band, which I was very skeptical of. I'm like, what is this going to sound like? You know, um, but we were setting up and getting ready, and it's like 7:30 in the morning or something, and Eric pops out from down the hall out of the radio room. Eric pops out and comes to introduces himself to all of us,
Right.
and like I thought that was really cool. That has stuck with me through the years. I was like, wow, man, like, because I mean, I knew who Eric was. I mean, I've been listening to the regular guys for years at that point, and I just thought, like, for some reason, that really stuck with me. Like, how cool it was that Eric, like, came and made a point to introduce himself to a bunch of guys that he didn't know who the hell we were.
Right.
But that we were going to be on the show, and it was it just came across as very professional and sincere.
Well, that's his nature. He was always interested in the guests, and plus he's just got a good personality for stuff like that. He doesn't want
Yeah.
to come across as like some uptight, jerk. and
Yeah.
but he was always really good with the guests. Hey, how you doing? What are you up to now? He was inquisitive, and he still is. We don't
Mhm.
have guests, but
Yeah.
he back then always inquisitive and appreciating that people are still doing music and live music.
Well,
I will say that, when I worked at Cumulus, and I believe this person is still there, the promotions person, and he's much more than that, but was very technical, and he knew how to set things up and put live acts on the air because he had worked with 99X for years, and,
mm,
they always had a live element whenever there was an artist in town, a live element and a production value that, it was different, hey, bring a guy in with an acoustic guitar and have him play in the studio using the studio mics, as opposed to let's wire microphones and plug in instruments and do a real show. We had you guys. We also had Driving and Crying a couple
mm,
times, and we had
yeah.
Government Mule, which I thought was cool to have them, in actually be there in the performance area, which they eventually got rid of that performance area and made it a bunch of sales offices. But
Oh yeah, I could even imagine what it is today. I don't even know what radio station it is today, Tim. Like, if it's the
it's the same
same,
station.
is it?
I don't know that they have live acts performing there, but I don't know. I haven't been in that building since 2015, so I don't know what they do.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So I guess I'll transition from there, dude, because God, there's so much to talk about. I mean, but um, let's talk about the von Haessler Doctrine.
Okay.
Um, uh, and God, again, dude, how do I tell this story? So Eric got fired from the regular guys, and then he rebuilt, and maybe we could touch on that some. But really, what I wanted to get to is where you guys are at now, and sort of how that came to be, or the beginnings of that. Which
Okay.
I just want to say to you personally, as somebody that listened to Neil Bortz, I listened to Neil Bortz more than I listened to the regular guys. Going back what 25 plus years now.
Definitely 20,
Yeah, I
if not
mean,
more.
like a long. Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah, they
Neil
started what in 98 or 99. I can't remember.
on WSB.
No, the regular guy started in 98 or 99
Right.
on 96 Rock. I don't
Yes,
remember
yeah,
which year.
exactly. Late 90s for the regular guys, and
Right.
then but Bortz was a staple on WSB.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
listened to him, and I started listening to him in '96 when I moved here. I mean, it wasn't about politics. I just liked good talk radio. I listened to him, and I in the afternoons I sometimes would listen to the Kimmer. I didn't even
yeah,
work there yet, but
yeah.
I would
I
listen.
like the Kimmer too. But yeah, Bortz was a staple, right? And so I
Right.
mean, I listened to Bortz more than I listened to the regular guys. And congratulations, Tim, on the Bortz slot.
Yeah, that's a pretty
That
coveted
is
radio spot, especially at this
blows
radio
my
station.
mind.
Yeah. Eric, when Eric, so I want you to answer your question properly. I need to know specifically did you want me to comment on in that
Well,
regard, like how
number
we got
one,
that.
I was just wanted to say congratulations on the Bortz slot. Um, but I I was there. I was actually listening on that Sunday. I'm just driving down the road, running some errands, and I had it on WSB, expecting some crappy finance show to come on or something. I think it was like around noon or 1, and all of a sudden, the news break ends, and there's Eric's voice,
Right.
and that was episode 1 of the Von Haessler Doctrine on WSB, and I was so happy I was like, "This makes perfect sense that Eric's on WSB." And he brought you guys along,
Well, to take
and
that podcast, when he was let go from the regular guys, it was 2014, and I think he
mm,
spent, some time convalescing, but he put together a podcast that he did from his house with Autumn and Greg and Michael Albanese, and I think there might have been other people, but those are the three that I know of specifically. And then he came on board with WSB and began doing a podcast a couple times a week and doing the live show on weekends. I wasn't allowed to be on the show until April of 2016 because I was under an enforced non-compete. It's a long story, it doesn't matter. But I was under a non-compete until a certain amount of
radio
time.
business stuff, yeah,
Right, right.
yeah,
And, I was allowed on air, in April of 2016, and that started, and then shortly thereafter, the show went full time instead of just being on Sundays, and, by 2018, we were good to go, man, and, once we hit that we're doing 3 hours a day, it was nonstop. I mean,
yeah,
t t Eric is simply had drive, I'm gonna make this
yeah,
work. I'm gonna work my ass off. I'm gonna bring in the right people. And he really did bring in the right people. I mean, English Nick and Autumn and Greg and I have known each other for as long as I've known Eric. So I think I
yeah,
started working at 96 Rock in September of 2000. So that's how long I've known them all.
yeah,
And Autumn and Greg were interns. And damn, and we've all bounced creative ideas off of each other for a very long time, and once we got into that rhythm with, like, English Nick is a great element to the show because he brings his voice and he brings his personality, and
personality, yeah, yeah,
Jared is really the only person on the show who was a WSB product, and he was perfect for the show because he's a great producer, he's very hardworking,
mhm.
and he's very good at offering up the stuff that we all I mean, he sets the table for us, and we kinda just feast off everything he gives to us.
Yeah, no, I mean, he integrated into that whole bunch very well.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't ask for a better, like, person to, like, "Oh, well, they have to interject one of the corporate guys, or, this guy we've been doing this or that with, grooming,
Yeah.
it all comes together as a pretty tight glove, which is a part of the success of the show. Now, I'm not it's one of the biggest morning shows in Atlanta, if not the biggest right now.
Certainly in that time slot, for sure.
Yeah, the
You know,
9 to noon.
9 to noon, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was very, very big for Bortz and for a time for, Herman.
Mm.
Bec
Poor Herman.
I know, rest in
Yeah.
peace. He was such
But
a nice guy, man.
yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, that show wasn't doing anything for me. So it kind of made sense to me, the way it transitioned into you guys landing that spot.
Well,
But
radio had to transition in that regard, if you the type of talk that was once on the radio station, the audience gets older, and
Right.
the newer people coming up, they're not used to going to radio for their entertainment. They're used to podcasts or watching things on Twitch or YouTube. Everything that they want to digest and get entertained by is in the palm of their hand on a phone. And
Yeah.
there's not necessarily in their cars or whatever. They're a generation that wasn't raised on radio. But we surprisingly have a large number of younger people. I mean, we do live events, or when we've done live events, there's always a handful, sometimes more, of people who are in their 20s, and that amazes me, and it makes me happy, because that means we're not just reaching, our audience and older. We're not reaching our age and older. But there was a transition that had to be made, because that kind of talk radio just doesn't really work anymore. It has a horrible, connotation of the angry white guy. I don't know what any of that means. But I mean, if you look at it, or you pay attention to it, you can see how that's a thing. But it was all over the country. It started with Rush Limbaugh, and then the political talk, and it was just this nonstop politics, politics, politics. And that got boring. And there really wasn't anything that was ever going to be accomplished by it. And the last person who did it really, really well passed away a year ago, Rush Limbaugh. I mean,
Right.
and even when he was ill and he had his operations, he was still delivering good talk radio for that audience. But he's gone now, and that kind of doesn't really exist anymore. You have to be more entertaining. You have to talk about other things. You can't always focus on that weird paradigm that you and I grew up with, where there was one side and then there was another, because that just doesn't exist anymore. And so you can tear it apart and make fun of it, which is what we do, or you can live on one end of it. And you live in one end of it, and that's where you're stuck. And I love what we do, where it's less and less and less focused on ideology and a political agenda, and just laughing at the absurdity of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I love about it is that it's there's more people involved, so it's not uh, so in that way it's taking from the shock jock, like the Howard Stern days.
Yeah.
Except it's not TNA based, or
Right.
that it's not shock jock based. It does have some political focus at times,
Mm-hmm.
or more serious, just societal things, that's not TNA,
I think it's a lot
you
like
know.
people's lives in general. You don't want to
Yeah.
just sit and talk about one thing, but you are going to have things, that you're passionate about, but you also want to laugh. If you're, you hear a lot of talk now, everything's so contrived, especially with social media, that these are the topics we're going to talk about today, and blah, blah, blah. And this is what we're going to talk about at Thanksgiving. And
Right.
we don't live that way. Normal people don't live that way. We sit down, and if we have somebody in our family that's really funny, we let them be funny. Or if you're at a dinner party, or if you're out with your friends, there's the cut up, there's the person that's serious all the time. Hey, why don't you lighten up? We have that good balance of people who are not only good at knowing what's going on in the world, but being able to laugh at it, or do a voice about it, or because we started out, Trump wasn't president yet, it was still President Obama, but Trump became president. So we had a good 4 years of not attacking his policies, or not attacking him as a person, but making fun of the way he presented himself, which was, I didn't ever think that I would ever be able to nail his impression, because there's a lot of people who do him, and a lot of people do him very, very well. But in their brains, they don't like him, so they present him a certain way. I just laughed at the things that he said that were absurd. And the same with Biden.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
and that's, to me, that's the best way
Mm.
to do it. And I did it with George Bush, and I did it with Obama, not hating or liking them or advocating them, just picking up on little ticks and having fun with the things that they say.
No, yeah, your Trump embodies the funniness of Trump. And Trump was a funny guy.
He was, and
He would like like you could almost word for word. You think you're being funny in your head, but no, actually Trump said something exactly like that.
right,
he,
right.
he was a
He did.
comedian almost. Yeah.
Right, and he was kind of a stand-up comic. We had a stand-up
Yeah.
comic, and there was
Mhm.
the seriousness that President Obama had. And a lot of times he was super serious. He had to be in certain areas, and Bush was kind of, outside of 9/11, he was just kind of a goofball. And
Right.
before him, you had Clemmy. We've had characters in there. And, you have to find, I always thought it would be tough to find a way to do Biden, but he's so guarded and he's so protected, and he's presented in a certain way. But if you pull away that pull away the curtain and you find
Yeah.
the clips of him and how he really is, the stuff that you're not going to see on the regular news, there's some character in there, and he's always been a character. Have been
Always. Yes.
paying attention to him since the 80s when he ran for president, but for the first time he ran for president. But
Right. Yeah.
he's always been a character, and now, I kind of play him as the doddering old, man, and the
Yes.
guy,
Like half
whether he
asleep.
is or he isn't,
Yeah.
doesn't.
He's
I don't want to get political about
it's okay. We won't. But he's either half asleep or yelling.
it. Yeah.
Like that's pretty much your sort of your wheelhouse right now.
Yeah,
The
we have a
exercise.
president in his 80s,
Yeah.
and I never thought we'd see that, especially since,
Yeah.
prior to President Trump, we had, three guys who were all relatively with it and in their
Right.
50s and 60s.
Yeah. I'll say this. I'll make this statement. I The Von Haessler Doctrine on WSB in Atlanta, Georgia it's sort of it's the radio version of South Park in a way.
That's a good compliment. I like that.
Because South Park is relevant, right? They do 7 days to air.
Right?
For the most part, unless they want to branch off into like something else storyboard wise. But 7 days to air, so it's all relevant. And yeah, I mean all the like pop culture to politics, it's there every day with you guys. So yeah, I'm gonna call you guys the South Park of radio.
I like that. I like that.
Me
I
too.
watch South I love South Park. It's my favorite animated show, I think probably of all time. I mean, with some slight exceptions like the first 10 years of The Simpsons, but South Park
Yeah,
is a
right.
living, breathing political cartoon that's funny, and I've been rewatching it, um, and I'm on, I think, season 18. That's when they first introduced PC Principal and all these modern characters. But it captures a time, and if you go back 10 years prior to that, season 8 captures a time,
At times
and
they were always relevant. Yeah,
right, right, and it's this new season that just started, and again, we live in a world where if there were only 50, 60 channels, South Park would be talked about all the time. There's 8,000 channels, and there's a million other things to do, whether you're on your computer or on your phone or whatever. But there's been 2 episodes, maybe 3, I don't know, but a couple of new episodes of South Park, and they're relevant and funny. And I do like the fact that they're back to doing, one episode, one-off episodes, and I liked the serialized ones where the whole season ties together. But
yes,
I
yeah,
like it. I like the whole, yeah, we're just going to do this one-off, this goofy thing.
yeah. Or the sometimes like back in the day, like some of the trilogies, like Cartoon Wars. That was one
Yeah,
of the best. I think that was a trilogy,
yeah,
right? So it was
yes,
almost a movie, you know.
yeah. And the movie. Speaking of movies, the pandemic movies they did were great.
The paint like so the pandemic specials
Yeah, I think they did 3 of them, 3
and
movies.
but those live on a special platform. It's not on Comedy Central, right?
Yes, I believe that platform is called BitTorrent. And if you don't have Paramount Plus, the best way to get them would be BitTorrent.
Okay, so I don't have Paramount Plus, so I haven't seen these episodes where they're grown-ups in the pandemic, so they do this weird time skip where
Hmm.
they're adults, Stan and the whole crew, Cartman and all. They're adults in today's world.
Yes. Well, it's actually in the future because they say the pandemic's finally over and it's 30 years later.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're talking it's like 2050.
Okay. All right, so they did push off of 2021 or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh,
that's awesome. Yeah, no, South Park's great, man. I've always loved South Park. Um so speaking of which, like let's some of that stuff. Let's talk about some of your other talents. So Eric refers to you, he refers to you every opening as the man of 1,000 voices, which I will agree with. So you do impersonations, Tim?
Yeah, quite a few. I would say more I'm a mimic than an impressionist.
Mhm.
I mean, there are a couple of people that I could probably maintain for, an entire conversation, if not longer, but most of the time I'm just, mimicking a voice or something and just being funny with it. And taking that ability to ad lib or to do improv with the voice, it's less about the voice, more about being a character. So, I mean,
Right.
a
Mhm.
thousand voices, I've done so many. There's voices I used to do that I don't do anymore. And it's like, I don't know, like getting on a bike, I guess. It's, if I haven't ridden a bike in forever, but it's a bad analogy, but, just I have tons of stuff in my head,
Sure.
voices, sound bites, all these because I've just consumed media my entire life. So I
Right.
can draw on a lot of that stuff, and like you were talking at the beginning of the show, the Billy West interview, I did Bill Macy from Maude. I don't know anybody that's doing that now, and why would they? But the fact that Billy liked it made me very happy. So any opportunity I have to do something goofy like that, I'll do it.
That was a cool moment. Uh,
And doing the little bit of the George Takei at the end with him, he liked that, I think.
yeah, I think you probably could have kept going with some of that stuff because I think you're right. It's like half the battle, if not more, is embodying the personality of the person, not so much the spot on voice, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense.
Yeah,
And
and the origin of all that for me was high school and college. I would just invent characters. They weren't famous people, and I did impressions, or I would do impressions of teachers and student teachers, and get in trouble for it. But one student teacher I made laugh because I would do all the other teachers, the ones that worked there. And I would do other kids in school. I could do impressions of kids. And then you fast forward, I was a manager at Bob Evans, and we had our regional Christmas party, and, I got dragged on stage by the regional manager, and I just did impressions of all the other managers that I knew. And so,
oh, that's awesome.
I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm counting the sausage on Thursday mornings and doing all the count at the end of the week to make sure I hit my goals. It wasn't until I got into Atlanta where I thought, "Well, all right, I might as well just give this a try." And, it seemed to have worked out so far.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, again, back to the von Haessler doctrine, where you guys are at right now in that 9 to 12 slot. Like I couldn't be happier for you guys, especially after what happened to Eric. Or I've always like I always remember thinking back in the day like about Eric. I was like, Eric's more intellectual than the TNA stuff. Seems like
Mhm.
he at some point during the regular guys, he was kind of trying to drag things into like a more intellectual conversation about relevant things, right?
Yeah, but I would say that Larry is also an intellectual person. It's just I think when you're with somebody in a partnership, because really, I mean, everybody else associated with the show was part of the show, but the core of the show was always Larry and Eric and their dynamic together, and they've been together for such a long time that
Yeah.
their ideas are gonna diverge, the ideas of how to do a show, um, and frankly, I think that sometimes you just get sick of the people you're working with, and then Southside Steve, I think that, he kinda got tired of being a punching bag and being the 3rd wheel and, "Hey, go out and do this shit in the bathroom." Sorry, I swore. Go do your goofy bits and stuff. Because Steve had things to say, and, everybody gets put in a box,
Yeah.
and so you saw people evolving and becoming, something different than they were when they originally started doing the show together, but evolving and going their own way. And I think that in a way, Eric leaving is what inspired him to say, "All right, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to prove to myself and to everyone else, frankly, that I can lead a show." Because am speaking. I mean, this is something he said. He didn't think maybe he could ever lead a show. Well, he's shown that he can, and he's very good at it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and in a different way, Larry can lead a show too. And Steve has shown that he can do it as well because he had a long run after we were all gone. He did. Whoops, sorry about that noise. He did the morning show on Rock 100.5 for a long time, and now he's on in afternoons with Axel, and I'm sure he'll do well there too. So everybody just kind of, went their own way, and even Seabass, who wasn't, all the time on the mic at first at Rock 100.5, he's got a real good thing going. He does Cart Narcs on YouTube, which is a huge channel, and it's funny. And he's also the producer for the Woody Show out in Los Angeles. So they've done really well. I love seeing. You ever see Cart Narcs?
I've not seen that yet. No.
He I'll keep it short, but he basically goes into grocery store or box stores parking lots, and if somebody doesn't put their cart back, he'll slap a metal bumper sticker on their car, and he'll bust them, and then there's the confrontation. But it's a funny channel. It's fun to watch.
Oh man.
But so I mean, like I said, the dynamic between Larry and Eric, and we could talk like I don't know how much time, and I would happily come back again, because there's so much to talk about in that regard that isn't negative. It's positive. How I learned how to do things by watching those two, and things to not do by watching those two, and to watch them, not necessarily just split apart because they didn't like each other or they didn't get along. Just you have new interests. The Beatles didn't stay together. Other bands didn't stay together. People went and did their own thing.
Yeah.
I would like one day for it, the four of us to sit down and do a podcast show where we talk about things. And, I don't have so thin a skin as I once had, so I'd be able to talk to them about it. That'd be great. You're not hearing me?
Yeah, yeah. Sure, I can host that here.
Well, I think we're probably going to do that, but I'll bring it up.
I can host that right here, Tim.
But
as an objective
yeah.
moderator.
Oh, I would love that one day for the four of us to be able to do that.
Dude, I hate to say it. I mean, I'd pay money to see that. So
and I really, I haven't worked with Steve in forever, and I haven't worked with Larry in forever, but I really appreciate everything I learned from them. And certainly, the market, radio in Atlanta. And, I appreciate that Eric gave me this chance. I love getting up every morning and coming to work. And I love doing what I'm doing, and we have a good audience, and it's a blast, and the extra things I get to do, like Radio Labyrinth and stuff, that is through the grace of my wife saying, yeah, get that out of your system and have fun. And it's just a blast. Being here at WSB is great. And, I don't drag negativity with me through life. And frankly, a lot of the stuff that was negative about the regular guy show was stuff that I caused because I was being a baby, and it's everybody's personality is different, but I would never, ever look on those days in a negative light. I mean, they made me who I am. And like I said, it would be great to just have all of us sit down and talk one day.
And it would be very entertaining.
I think it would be, yeah.
I saw something like that, and maybe you've seen it too, because I saw where Steve and Larry.
Uh-oh, you froze.
Oh, well.
Was that me who froze or you? Hello?
You're fine.
Are you back?
I'm gonna turn off mine.
Hey, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
All right.
If you can hear me, hold on.
I got to wrap it up very quickly here or shortly here, but I don't want to screw you.
Yeah, I know. It's that thing where I said the Wi-Fi drops sometimes. Can you hear me?
But I'm serious. I could come back in a couple of weeks if you want me back on, man. I like talking about this stuff, and we could talk about anything else you want to talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. If you can hear me, Tim?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love to have you back on. Like there is a lot to unpack, man, and hell, I didn't even get into half of it, man. So, um,
What about I can't next week we're having dinner with my parents, but what about in 2 weeks on Sunday again if you want? I probably have
yeah,
to do
that'd
it
be
from home, but
yeah, no, that'd be great. And I mean, you got your home studio and all that for Radio Labyrinth, I'm sure.
let's see. That would be I got my goofy little calendar here.
Yeah, I can't do that math right now. Let's see, in early
20th,
March.
27th. It would be the 5th of March, I believe. No, it would be the 6th.
Okay,
So you want to do that?
yeah, I'd love to, man.
Are we still live?
Yeah, we are still live, actually.
I love that.
Um,
I love that you can do all this live. It's part of the show. That's awesome.
yeah. No, hey, look, if I drop out, it's your show until I come back.
Well, the next time that happens, I'll just take over.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're one of the very few professionals I know that can actually do that. If you can still hear me.
I can still hear you. Let's plan on March 6th if you want. I'd happily come back because I've enjoyed this, and I think be even more to talk about. So
I agree, man. And you can jump out if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up then. You can jump out if you need to, man. And get back to your child and Tim stuff.
yeah, that's what I
Um,
got to do. But I really had a lot of fun doing this, man. I didn't know what to expect. This is great. I had fun, and I will happily do it again.
well, thanks, man. I had a blast, and like I said, yeah, I touched on half the stuff, and yeah, if you guys want to, have that. I mean, I'll moderate the regular guys reunion. I'm just saying, Squatch
I
Talk is
don't know
good for
how
that.
I don't know how close we are to that happening. That could be even years away, but I will keep you informed on that in that regard.
Well, I tell you what, I'll reach out to Larry and see what I can do, Tim.
Well, I'm sure he'd do it. I just got to get Eric on board and Steve. We got to get everybody together. So that'll be the thing. Do you talk to Larry?
No, I don't. I don't know Larry.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know Larry. I know Nick.
Nick's
Out
awesome.
of the whole group of people here involved, I know English Nick because of the music scene and metalsome and all that. So, um, but yeah, dude,
Okay,
I'd love to have you back.
cool,
Um,
man. Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I got to go home to the missus and the
yeah,
boy.
cool, dude. And hey, I appreciate you doing the show from the mighty WSB radio station laboratories.
And did you tag me in your post? Because I'll share it on my page when I get home.
Tim, I've never tagged you. We both know this. That there's no
Well, you know what I mean.
tag. No, I mean I sent you the in email form.
Yeah, no,
I
no, no.
tagged
But
you.
when you post it, when I get home, I want to share it so I can share it with the people that follow me, if that's okay.
Yeah, please share it around. I would appreciate that. Um, there might be one or two people interested in some Squatch talk sometime too. You never know.
I'd love to do that. There was a great documentary we interviewed, not a documentary, a movie set in North Georgia about Bigfoot hunters that I'll recommend to you when I got to get home and find the link.
Okay, yeah, send that to me. Um,
Okay.
and
All right, man.
thanks.
Well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Again, thank you very much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, and I'll be hearing your voice Monday, whenever Monday. When I
Monday,
catch
but
up to it. Yeah.
Sunday, March 6th. I got it on my calendar, so let's
Well,
plan
yeah,
on it.
that too. Yeah,
All right.
but yeah.
Cool, dude.
Thanks, bud.
See you, man.
Later. All right, awesome. That went great. My internet is dying. Uh, this is wonderful. Technological issues. I don't know if you guys can still hear me or not. I'm just gonna wrap it up. Thanks everybody for joining episode 1 here of other YouTubers. And yeah, links are in the description for Tim's channels, Radio Labyrinth which I highly recommend. Like, it really is a gold mine of like entertainment and pop culture stuff, like stuff you don't normally catch on YouTube. Tim's got a good niche going there. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to do more of it with different kinds of guests. Tim's going to come back on. That's going to be fun. So I'm just going to do hard ending here because my internet's going and I have no idea if you guys hear me or not. Thanks everybody for watching.